Hey guys, my name is Rachel. Welcome to week 3 of Gatherings. Today we're going to talk about how we reach our families. So I was saved my sophomore year of high school because a friend brought me to church. At that point in my life, my family was not saved. I remember going to church when we were younger, doing a lot of like VBS things, but when we got older and my parents got divorced, we didn't go to church consistently. So in high school when I got saved, it was this awesome thing. I felt this transformation in my life because of Jesus and what he had done for me, and meeting all these amazing people at church, and having healthy relationships and healthy friends. And I wanted my family to have that too. So I figured that when the gospel was presented to them like it was presented to me, and if they experienced Jesus like I experienced Jesus, that they would be all in like I was. And that was not the case, unfortunately. I think that I approached reaching my family not in the right way. I think they feel like I kind of shoved it down their throats, which I kind of did when I look back on it, but it was out of a good heart. I wanted them to know, like, there's this God who loves you, and he can save you from all this brokenness that you feel, and he can make your life feel a lot better. You don't have to be depressed, and you don't have to have this anxiety, and I want you to come to church with me. I went to a church where a lot of families went to church, and I was kind of one of the ones that was just like the single who didn't have a family who went to church, and I wanted my family to come, and I wanted us to worship the Lord together, but the way I went about it wasn't right. So because of that, for a while, they felt like they couldn't really talk to me. They kind of, I think in their minds, kind of labeled me as this Jesus freak girl in our family now. And so because of that, we didn't really have a close relationship for a few years because I wasn't really pursuing a relationship with them. I was just trying to get them to know Jesus and have a relationship with him. I wasn't really seeing them for where they were and for who they were, mostly for trying to help them, lead them to the Lord. And honestly, since I got saved in my sophomore year of high school, I believe that's 7 years ago. I did the math. I think it's 7 years ago. For 6 years, so the first 6 years of my Christian walk, my relationship with God was completely influenced. I let it be influenced by my family and where they were with the Lord. So there were many nights where I'd cry myself to sleep because my sister's still struggling with anxiety and depression, and now my mom's back on drugs, and now my dad's, back into drinking a lot and into being an alcoholic, and I felt like I was supposed to bear those things, and it wasn't until actually Pastor Kim helped me. So we have awesome pastors here. We were getting dinner one night, and I was just explaining to her, where my family was and how my struggle with that, and she just plainly said, you can't let your relationship with God be based on your family's situation and their salvations. Like, your relationship with God is your relationship with God, and nothing else should come into that. It should just be you and the Lord. And when I realized that, I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. And I realized I had really been neglecting my relationship with the Lord because I was trying to save my family. So from that moment, I asked myself the question, okay, Lord, or asked the Lord the question, how do you want me to reach my family? What do I do? Because obviously what I had been doing, which was, trying to set up these awesome, miracle moments with them where we would have this conversation and be like, yes, and cry and fall into each other's arms, and because they accepted the Lord. But those things weren't really working. It was really just pushing them away from me and farther away from the Lord. And so I asked him, what do you want me to do? And he told me, just love them and pursue a relationship with them and try to get to know them. And so I've been doing that for about a year now. I was doing that before, but not as intentionally. So the past year, I've been really intentional about, okay, just ask them how they're doing and don't have an agenda with it. Just, hey, Alyssa, my sister, how are you doing? Or, hey, Katie, what's going on? Hey, Mom, how's your week? And what I found is just naturally when I'm going into those conversations and when I'm going into seeing them and spending time with them, reminding myself that this just love them with whatever is going on in their lives, and if they're coming in with a bad mood, it doesn't matter. Just love them, despite our past relationship. Just love them. So I find when I go into those moments with them with that mindset, the Lord's just been giving us opportunities to talk about him and to to relate on a deeper level like we never had. And so really right now my mom's doing great. She's finding her way back to the Lord, and that's because, one day I just came over and I just listened. I didn't have an agenda. I didn't try to say, well, Jesus loves you, so are you going to get your life, back on track now, or what? Like, what, you're wasting your time. I didn't say that. I just listened to her, and I just encouraged her with the words that the Lord gave me. And so I'm finding that there's been moments like that with my family and even other people in my life where the Lord's been blessing us with a deeper connection, and I've been able to see that I've been planting seeds and the Lord's been planting seeds, and some of them are coming into fruition and some of them aren't. Like, my sisters are still kind of struggling and my dad's really struggling, but I know that if I just keep loving them, and hopefully other people in their life just love them like the Lord does, that's going to have such an impact on their life, and eventually they're going to come to know the Lord. The Lord did promise me that He was going to set the captives free, and that was the wording that He used. And so I just keep praying, Lord, you're going to set those captives free. And so just help me to love them with where they are. And so that's something I want to tell you too, is when you just love people like Jesus loves people, it works out, and sometimes it doesn't, and especially in the timing that we want. It's been 7 years now, and I've been praying for my family, and I want them to really truly experience salvation in the Lord like I have, and like a lot of people in our youth group and our pastors and our church have. But there's been seeds that have been planted over those 7 years, and especially in the last year, and all I can really do is keep loving them and keep praying for them, and ultimately show them and lead them by example. They look at my life and they say, hey, how are you where you're at, and how are you able to do these things? All I can say is because the Lord's blessed me, and because of what He's done in my life starting 7 years ago. And so I just encourage you guys, if you're trying to reach your family, I encourage you to pray for them. I encourage you to just figure out how to love them like Jesus loves them, and figure out how you can show them who Jesus is just through your actions. So I hope you guys have great conversations in your gatherings this week.